Hello, welcome back. So in addition to the preconditions set by the Obama administration, what are the other stumbling blocks in improving the US-Syrian relationship? Well, to begin with, the two sides need to re-establish trust. Politically, it's crucial for the US that Syria talks to Israel again. Syria suspended its indirect negotiations with Israel to protest the three-week war on Gaza. And Syria needs to be assured the US will move away from the Bush administration's policies aimed at regime change and isolating Syria. Militarily, Syria is suspected of developing nuclear and unconventional weaponry. This could be a very disconcerting factor for the Americans. Economically, Syria wants American trade, investments and technology. This will require the US to end the Syrian Accountability Act. Signed off in 2003, this act imposed economic sanctions on Syria. We welcome back our guests in Damascus, Dr. Marwan Karabalan, in New York, Seth Kaplan, and in Beirut, Rami Khouri. Seth, can I come back to you? Syria says that the US must act to prove its good intentions. Syria would say, treat us equally, trust us, but don't make demands, United States. Trust is perhaps a bigger hurdle to jump before all the other issues can be tackled.
Well, I think the key issue here is that the American administration will send an ambassador back and will attempt to dialogue with Syria. But the real question is, when they start asking Damascus to do a few things, whether it's in Lebanon, whether it's with Hezbollah, Hamas, whether it's with Iran, the real question is how far along that road will Syria move? I think Syria will welcome an ambassador back, welcome greater dialogue, and maybe have greater face and not be treated the same way it was in the last administration. But if Syria doesn't make any changes in its policies on these many fronts, how close can this relationship become, and how much a difference there can be in terms of substance from the past to the future is not really clear. I would say the one area where the new administration in Washington and Damascus do have a common interest, and there might be an opening, is over the Golan. I think the new Israeli government, led by Netanyahu, probably could see negotiations over the Golan in a much more favorable light than negotiations directly with the Palestinians. And there might be a common front there where the Netanyahu administration, the Obama administration, and Damascus could see that as one opening where they all have something they want to accomplish together. That could be a breakthrough on that front. But I find it hard to believe that Syria will make dramatic changes in its other policies, and therefore the potential for greater substance, I think, is somewhat limited.
Rami Khouri in Beirut, listening to what Seth just said there in New York, and what do you believe, what moves have to be made by either side, really, for that build-up of trust to continue? And it's not just about getting an ambassador back into Damascus, surely.
That's right. I think a more accurate and comprehensive view, and perhaps more internationally legitimate, would look at the three R's: respect, reciprocity, and rights. The Syrians want to be treated with respect, and they're prepared to respect others. They want reciprocity, if we're going to apply standards of behavior to any country, they should be applied to all countries, and rights, that each country has to have its rights met and its basic national interests on a reciprocal basis. So I think there is a great opportunity. I would agree with Seth in the sense that Syria-Israel negotiations represent probably the most interesting thing going on right now, as well as the Iran-US, Iran-Western world negotiations. Those two are the places where we're going to look for action. And if there is movement there, that will impact significantly on Hezbollah, on Hamas, on Israeli-Palestinian, the Lebanese situation, many other factors. So those two Iranian and Syrian situations are critical, and they will only be resolved or addressed in terms of reciprocal rights and respect on both sides. America going around sanctioning people, threatening people, making ultimatums, that hasn't worked. Bush tried it for 8 years, and it didn't work. The Iranians and Syrians have not significantly changed any of their policies, and now the U.S. seems to be changing its policies. So this is really a historic potential opening right now, which both sides, I hope, will grab. But the Israelis need to be on the same page. They need to be committed to reciprocity, rights and respect as well. They can't be lone rangers in this process.
Mr. Karbalan, in Damascus, you've heard what our guests across the water have said. Just explain to us what really matters to Syria. Is it getting sanctions lifted, or is it the Golan Heights? I'm sure it's both.
Well, I mean, indeed, I mean, both of them. But I think returning the Golan Heights is something that is extremely important for the Syrian government, and this is what the Syrian government has been trying to do.
But do you think the United States, with the Obama administration, can help you in your goals?
Yes, indeed. I mean, the Syrian government believes that the United States has a very important role to play in the peace talks between Syria and Israel. And we all believe that the Obama administration is much more interested in reviving the peace process in the Middle East compared to the previous administration. And we also believe that appointing George Mitchell sent a very strong and positive signal into this direction. But also important for Syria is improving the bilateral relationship with the United States. I think Syria is interested in having good relations with Washington because that would be beneficial for Syria in many respects, especially economically. But I just want to say something actually about the Syrian-American dialogue. That unless the two sides are focusing, in my opinion, on things that are constituting something like common interest between them, I don't think that this dialogue will lead us anywhere. Because if the United States keep focusing on the issues of conflict between Syria and the United States, like for example Hamas, Iran, Hezbollah, and the other issues, that is going to lead us to nowhere. Rather than
and we've already covered that. We've already covered that area within this particular half an hour. But let's just carry on, because I want to move on very quickly as well to the relationship and connections with Iraq and Lebanon. Seth Kaplan, Syria was a firm opponent to the 2003 invasion of Iraq. A bit close to home for them, perhaps. American troop numbers decreasing now, but the focus still remains there on Syria, because within a few weeks we're going to have the UN-backed Hariri Tribunal launched in Beirut, and there will be a lot of pressure on Syria. Can America do anything here to aid the dialogue that is required for both Syria and Lebanon to come to some sort of agreement or understanding, whatever the outcome?
Well, I think the United States is probably not the ideal player in that opportunity you just mentioned. I think surely the U.S. would like to improve relationships with Syria, but is it in a position to negotiate some outcome that will be good for Lebanon and good for Syria? I'm not sure it can do much unless it wishes to downplay the situation in Lebanon and put better relations with Syria as a higher priority. But of course, if it took that route, while Damascus might be quite satisfied, I'm sure there's a great majority of people in Lebanon that would find itself put aside in a not a very good manner, and it might not be too happy if Washington took that approach, of course.
Rami, let's come to you in Beirut. I mean, it's just a few days away now. This tribunal will start in Lebanon. What is the situation there as far as you're concerned, and how are people viewing this new impetus by the United States?
Well, the tribunal formally starts in early March, but people don't expect indictments to come down for months and months. Sometime later in the year, we expect. And this is really the most significant issue that is going to come up in Syrian-Lebanese relationships, and it could be politically and literally explosive, depending on who is indicted. We assume the Syrians are innocent until proven otherwise, and many people in Lebanon think the Syrians are involved, many others don't. We really have to let the facts speak for themselves, but there is a sense that the UN-mandated court an investigation is a very important milestone in the modern Middle East to end the impunity of political assassinations that have plagued so many countries in this region. So let's see what the facts say and who is going to be indicted. But clearly this is going to be a potential bump in the road. If the Syrians are indicted, this is going to be a big issue, and it could cause a lot of problems. But the bigger, longer-term issues are that the Iranians, the Syrians are major players. They have to be engaged. But the issues that are there have to be resolved. Palestinian sovereignty, an end of Israeli occupation of Palestinian land, Arabs living to accept with Israel, and the rights of all people simultaneously implemented and not sequentially.
OK, well, therefore, the moment we have to leave it there. So much more we could talk about, but I'd like to thank my guests. In Damascus, Dr. Marwan Karabalan, in New York, Seth Kaplan, and in Beirut, Rami Khouri. You've been watching Inside Story. I'm Sahel Rahman. Thank you very much for your time and your company. Bye for now.